Shall we start, Kavita madam?
Yes, sir. I think we can start. It's already
You're
6.
seeing the screen, no?
Yes, sir. Review article. It
Yes,
is
sir.
there. It shows.
Yes. So, welcome all again for yet another session of research methodology. Today, possibly, will be a little short presentation. I have some other work to attend to, so maybe an hour from now, I will be talking to you, and we would like to discuss on, the extension of reviewing of literature. As you know, we talked about review of literature in the last session, how we should, go about reviewing the available literature so that it paves way for us to identify a gap and possibly explore that gap, convert that gap into research question, and then, formulate the objectives and design the experiments. Now, today we talk, before going to the designing of experiments or designing of the study itself or plan of study, let us just spend some time about the deliverables after, possible deliverables after reviewing of literature. Why we should deliver for, actual study is, there are a couple of reasons for that. The first thing is, there is no alternative for all the research scholars who have embraced PhD to write a thesis. They have to write a thesis because that is a requirement. Thesis is an evidence of documentation of the research in a very systematic manner and a permanent print material that will be available for posterity. So it is extremely important that you document the notes and then consolidate it into research report, which we generally call as, the thesis. So that is a publication by itself, right? That is a mandatory publication because that is to go for internal as well as external evaluations. So that is no alternative, no escaping of writing the thesis, right? So that is a publication. Besides that official documented publication, which is quite elaborate and extensive and in-depth, it is extremely important for you also to publish certain milestones or certain major findings depending on the objectives. 1, 2, 3 objectives you would have laid out, and for each objective, it is good and it is a convention that for each objective, the findings have got to be reported or published. So they go as research publications or publications in the journals. Put together, these research articles will be the what is called the created knowledge, which is the intent and also the core of PhD thesis. So you draw certain major findings, stitching to each objective a article. Besides this article publication, it is also extremely an important convention that after doing or spending a lot of time in a criticality manner about the research articles, you will gain a lot of what's called depth, I should say not depth, breadth of knowledge, and you will be knowing the complete area in which you will be, toying around, you will be handling and you will be working around. But that particular environment in which, traverse gives you an experience and gives you confidence to stitch into an article. Although it is not your original article, but you will expose that particular experience of the journey into a report called review article. So review article is a prerequisite conventionally. It is not a must, but if you do it, it is always good because review articles also, they have high value. And now let us see what is this review article, what is an extension of little bit more a documentation called treatise, and what is a kind of little in-depth and a singular subject by a single author called monograph. Let us just have a preliminary or a cursory idea about these three deliverables because all the three deliverables completely stand around the experience that you have gained during reviewing of literature, because you would have, I should say, completely soaked in the area, and you are almost embracing a particular topic or area now. So to capitalize or to deliver or to, I should say, give justice to all the very intent and also extensive work that you have done by reading several articles on the area that you want to work, you will be able to stitch those experiences into articles. And also review articles also have publishing value. They are also published in regular journals. It's a part and parcel or a section in any prospective journal, review articles. And review articles serve many other, because this is a contribution by you. So you get equal status as an author, and also you will be helping fellow junior researchers who are yet to decide to get into registration mode. So one, that you will become an author. You're going to become a seasoned author once you publish findings and after doing experiments, but now you are a probationary author. So this is a golden opportunity for you, that you should engage in writing research article, because that gives a lot of credit, and it is also considered as one of the official article of your research journey, of your research course. So review articles have a lot of value. Never ever ignore, lose this opportunity. So during the work itself, before taking up actual designing of experiments and engaging in experiments and then getting some findings, you will share your experience, how you stumbled upon the actual problem statement. And that is the intent around, and also the content of the review article. Let us talk about review article now. If you can see these items, many are, it looks long, but they are very simple. The outline or the content or the ingredients of a review article will be these 15 items, because it is the summation or summary of all the review articles in a particular area, all the articles gist in the area of your would-be study. You will be extensively having a important section of the review article is what is called bibliographic reference. The 100 or 200 articles that you have chosen by selection criteria, you will everything cite. So in review article, the major section people read is how extensively you have referred, how extensively you have read, what is that intense but broad work or academic work or intelligent work that you have done. So people, if you communicate a review article, before reading the content of the article, they will see the review reference. So reference section will be exhaustive, and it will be maximal in number. It will be not definitely less than 50, right? So review article is summation of one particular topic or small related topics, and summary of that are the actually extent of what you have understood about the finding, about the problem, about the area itself. That would be the content in of the review article. And bibliographic reference is extremely important, because you will be introduced how to cite, what are the ingredients of citation, how to refer and cross-refer. Cross-reference you will understand. In other words, the in-text citation, you will become an expert in text citation if you write a review article, and it will be a cakewalk if you have this what's called experience for writing the discussion chapter. Discussion chapter also is on similar lines, but then in discussion chapter you will be more experienced, because you would have got in your hand the findings, the outcome of your experiments. So writing is same, but the material will be little more refined in the discussion. The material will be little raw, little new, little summary type in the review article. This is the difference between review article and discussion. Both are difficult to write unless you go methodically and incorporate these ingredients into the respective deliverables. One is review article, the other one is discussion of the thesis. And both are very, very creative in nature. In review article, though you refer to different people's writing, homogenization is possible because you will be converting what you have understood by different languages or different contexts that you have read. So the flow or the sentences is yours, but the idea will be little different, or the facts that you have come across or cut across are of somebody else's. Somebody else's writing, you will reflect in your language in review article. So your language harnessing, your writing power enhances if you give a sincere attempt to writing review article. Please keep in mind that you decide, every one of you decide that you will end up in writing a review article and publishing it before you really set your hands and minds for designing of experiments and doing actual experimental work. And it gives you a lot of confidence, lot of boosting energy for you to move forward with the discussion and other chapter building up of later on. So full bibliographic reference will be there. There will be a very strong introduction where the objectives, the domain or the area of the articles, the audience that you are going to address. Here the audience means you are going to address peers who are all doing in your domain, and as well as the junior people who want to kind of enter into. So this is both an exposition of your scholarly writing as well as selling of your idea to your juniors. So your audience will be your juniors and peers, as well as some people who are habituated in reading research articles. A small section there, but majority will be your peers and also your juniors. Journal and conceptual layouts, you will become completely conversant and adept, and also you will have a classification based on the experiments those people have conducted, because you are not just summarizing only the abstracts here, you are summarizing the whole article. So you will do it in a epitomized or paraphrase manner. The gist of the findings you will present in kind of very small 7 to 8 sentence paragraphs. So review articles, although are lengthy in nature, but they will have a classification, the exposition or explanation of the findings and also the nature of experimentation that they have, the authors have chosen, right? So you report like a kind of journalist, right? Like a reporter of a newspaper, what others have done and what actually in effect you have understood. That is what is the intent of writing review article about that particular area. It will be brevity because many articles have to be covered. Each article will be in summarized manner. Results reflection would be there. Their contributions will be elicited about the area that you are chosen, you are deliberating. What were the foundational things they embraced and built their structure, you will be highlighting. Synthesis, like analysis is before you take up the you formulate the problem, but now it is a kind of synthesis because many articles have got to be synthesized. So those linking statements, that kind of giving flow statements, you will become very, very conversant and adept. Analysis of additional information, you will always tell that there is a scope to analyze and there is a scope to add on information. You will be because you are reading in a critical angle, that critic thing will be there. That means your contribution also will be there. In other words, your own undertones or your own direct arguing or supporting or differing, that kind of reflections will also be running through. Further critique of a conceptual article or an empirical article, you can always tell if there is a possibility, not just this is the end. Issues that is raised by the author which are unaddressed maybe you are going to address or take up. You will highlight concerns, you will highlight limitations, you will highlight findings, you will highlight relevance and impact that is given that is made on you, as well as possibly to the article readers, that is your article review readers also will be reflected. Some questions which you would like to propose, you would like to appreciate, you would like to highlight also, you can, there is a scope to elicit. And finally, the bibliography, that is cited bibliography, annotated bibliography also will be there. So you have a fair idea of what should be the content in under each of these items. You can construct your review article. But these are essential ingredients in a review article. It will be definitely longish. It will be definitely, number of pages will be more. But then review articles are always welcome, because you are, collecting the information here and there and putting in at one particular point, at one particular place. So people would appreciate. That is the reason why I also advise you to go and read in the beginning or in the middle of your this one review articles on the topic that you have chosen also, because that will endorse that the gap that you identified has not been covered. And in one particular review article itself, you get enough of cross references, and you can always it's a handy guide, so that you can touch all the articles and see whether the topic or the gap that you have chosen is really worth pursuing. So that also is an advantage to you. You can always have, because in one particular area or particular point or a location, you will be discussing everything related to that particular area. So review articles have a lot of advantages. So full bibliographic references you will be having. Why this is needed? This is needed because many times, you can straight away contact a particular author, write an email yourself and get related information. In fact, when I was doing my research, this was not known to me. My guide told me that you can simply write a mail, because email was not there at that point in time. So you just write a mail and request them, if you have further information besides your published article, I would appreciate you to reach it to me, so that I will be grateful. So I could collect a lot of pertinent information by just sending a request letter and getting volumes of books, volumes of material. See, the people whom you touch will have an indirect responsibility and also a kind of duty to help the junior people. So I did not spend much, Europe and Americas, the post is so simple and also easy. Everything used to come in bulk, I used to get even issues, volumes, continuous related topics, free of cost. That was a great gesture. And now, if you just put an email, the era is of email, letters are no more there. So you can write an email and be in constant chatting mode with these authors, So instead of one supervisor, instead of one brother, you have many elder brothers and sisters who will definitely appreciate and help, because in research, one of the understanding is more you help others, better you get your name. In fact, when I went for an interview for an assistant director, they asked me how many requests of articles have come for you. Now, what we call it as citation index. That means people will take your contribution, your articles, and build up their ideas. Like similarly, if somebody asks references for you, if somebody requests an article for your article to be sent, the credit goes to the person who has published. So that is also an yardstick of the status of the author. So people would be very longing, people would be very happy to help you. Never ever shy away of asking and seeking help from anybody, and most probably everybody. Everybody are almost in the similar boat. Maybe they know it little in more depth and breadth. That is all. Otherwise, they are all same. We are all same. We are all a community. So seek help, and you will definitely get help from unexpected corners, and that help you will always cherish. So for that, you will have to collect their affiliations, your addresses, be in constant touch with them. You know, more number of friends you make, especially people who have published, better for you, because those people become little seniors to you. Those people will have some understanding, and they also get mutual, gratitude, and you also get benefit from that. So this constant communication, you should not shy away. So, my dear friends, please don't understand it is only your guide. It is only people whom you have befriended in India are the only people with you. There will be plenty of people you can acquire, and this acquisition of researchers gives you and takes you to a better height. So you should not be reluctant. You should not be shying away from corresponding if you feel like to these people, because all the more your problems get sorted out, your solutions will be in your own vicinity, in your own reach. So please use that. Then you have introduction chapter, which is elaborate here, telling about objectives, articles, goals, purposes of the article that is being published, and you are going to summarize the domain area that you are going to talk about. Identify the intended audience. I told you audience are two types. One is your juniors and peers, and whether the article is conceptual or empirical, is it non-experimental work or experimental work. All those things you can categorize, and you introduce in the same straightforward sentences that this is a conceptual paper, however throws light upon the complete breadth of this particular concern or issue. That way you can always stop. And if it is experimental, tell about the method, tell about the findings, summarize that findings. So it will be a thorough, good experience, academic experience for you if you write a review article. Finally, summarize, synthesize what the problem was addressed, which solution was proposed, and what the evidence they put forward in support of the solution or the defense, or also some kind of future scope and limitations, the advantages, disadvantages of their work. So it will be a good exercise if all of you, decide today that you will bring a research deliverable, research a publication, review article soon after you end doing the review article, review process, review of literature process. Then results will be there. There are 9 items here. All the 9 items you should keep in your this one and fill it up. The results can be, especially only cut small sentences about take home points, very brief, because number of articles to be covered are more. Even if you briefly write even 4 sentences of say around 60, 70 or even 100 articles becomes 400 sentences, 400 into 4, 1,600 sentences. So results itself, gets a lot of filling up, and it is important for you because many people work you are putting in one particular place. Then finally, contribution in a summarized way, you can tell, putting 10, 15 papers together and their contribution in that particular area. Here, the synthetic approach is more important, and you can summarize. So results is the important chapter where, you will highlight the results of others, and which has very has a direct pertinence relationship of your issue or concern. Then the foundation, sometimes you can always submit that this article does not build upon any foundation research. For the first time they have ventured, the previous help was not available for these people. For the first time they have risked and ventured in choosing the problem, and they have built up. So it is very fresh and I should say a virgin area or less explored area. You can always mention, and this is a preliminary critical point, criticism that you are making, but it should be factual. It should be factual, right? So that much of leverage, that much of judgment power you will always gain once you do a sincere reviewing process of all the literature connected to that issue. The next is synthesis of the concepts, simple analysis of that means what has changed since the article was written. In other words, what was done past, you are coming to current status, and how the trend and ended up and where you are staying now, that kind of issue. So in a way, you start with the history, you start with how it developed, and it starts with where it is standing, and how it goes forward will be your continuous logical sequencing of writing the review article. How do how do its lessons, ideas, theories even still applicable, even if it is very old, how it is applicable in a modified, in an altered or unaltered manner? To what extent the issues have been resolved, whether it is very superficial or moderate or completely depth, and all this. So you have an advantage of being a judge, you have an advantage of being critical, you have an advantage of being a summator, you have an advantage of exposing their good things, and also some kind of wanting things, all gap or you what is not present also you can highlight. So you take that role as a summator, as a kind of summator, in the sense, in the light of what findings have come, what is desired also, you can give a kind of conclusion touch, right? So that is what is the approach. And finally, that criticality is always there. Your shortcomings can be very clearly presented. Sometimes before submitting the shortcomings, ensure that it is a shortcoming, confirm, double confirm that it was a shortcoming, and you have full right to tell that it is a shortcoming. So limitations can be explicitly told. So you have complete leverage, complete scope, complete opportunity to express yourself, your own experience of reading so many articles in the concerning that in that area. So you will be a real good contributor of existing literature, and also contributing not only to forward process but also a nostalgic or past processes. Review articles serve good purposes. It is extremely easy, extremely needed, extremely possible exercises. So don't lose that opportunity. The next group is what is called, our next deliverance after doing an extensive survey of literature, is what is called treatises, writing treatises. Now, treatise is defined as the exposition or your argument in writing, including a methodical discussion of the facts. So here the focus is actually the facts, otherwise the findings which have been converted, which remained so for long. Finding remaining for long time is a fact. Please understand. In other words, you found for the first time, but it is a repeated finding of many and also yours, and it stayed for a long time. Then that finding is no more a finding. Finding is only first time you hit, and then it remains so for a long time. Then it has become a fact. So such things you will enlist, highlight, bring out from the review articles, range of review articles, or the select of review articles that you have chosen. So that is what is called treatise. That means you are not talking of any kind of what is called other. Review article is a comprehensive thing. You can mix the process, you can mix the method, you can mix even the concept, you can mix even the core, you can mix. So it's a comprehensive thing. It covers everything. But treatise is only the pulled out strands of facts and the principles which made to make it a fact. That is, so in other words, this is a pointed approach. You select only the findings and talk about the findings. So it is more pointed, and it is more of your personal experience on that fact. Okay. See, the fact would also be would have been discussed by the original author, but you will give your perspective there. If that perspective could be same, could be little altered, and could be entirely different than what has been depicted. That's where you win. See, by understanding and extrapolating the application point of view. So it is a kind of taking finding as the subject or the topic and making a discourse, right? So this will also be a longish one, not as long as review article. It is little shorter because you are zeroing on to certain select findings of select articles. It will be not very long, it will be moderately long, more than an essay you will be writing. but concentrating on only findings. Findings are those emergence points out of experiments. Please remember, out of experimented things, what has been found, that only you will, whichever you feel is worth, you have better perspective, better coverage, you can pick and choose and then write a treatise. Treatise is more specialized work, more refined work, more difficult work, I should say, because you should also be an experimenter. You should have a kind of comparative account of all that is related to that particular finding, so that you can cover yours as well as many people's in one particular go. So treatise is also very, I should say, a specialized skill, knowledge is needed for writing treatises. That is why treatises, if you consider number, they will be definitely far less than the number of review articles. The key features of a treatise is the written portion that is exposed itself to examination. That is, it is an examined, consolidated finding. You are examining and endorsing. So it is a double examination. You will expose that. Then formal is to make the work open and objective examination by others. So that objectivity and examination of your perspective, also you are giving an opportunity for somebody else to comment and also appreciate and provide kind of augmentation as well as criticism. So in treatise, see, please understand, all the three are original. Whether you write a review article, whether you write a treatise, which one you pick up and decipher or describe, that is where the review article, treatise and monograph differ, right? In treatise, it is only pulling out the finding and talking about finding and giving a very important your own perspective of that particular finding. The subject is intellectual and many times it is abstract. So because it is unexperimented, it is your kind of what is called hypothesis oriented or your guesswork, right? Your guesswork. So the subject can be intellectual, it can be even abstract. If the subject is physical or natural world, the work becomes scientific writing. So if it is a finding based on emerging out of an experiment, then it is an extension of scientific writing. He has published and you are publishing. He has published a review article. You are taking the finding out of that and treating that particular finding in light of others' finding, which is of the similar area, similar work, right? So it is an extension of scientific writing as well. So you can, if you have time, you can always do. And here, because it is both the modes, experimental origin as well as abstract origin, so treatises will be kind of a, you can pick up any topic. You can pick up any topic and treat it, because it is a finding that you are discussing, right? It is not your actual, you are not doing actual work. You are just augmenting, complementing, sometimes supplementing without actual work. So treatises could be of varied subjects. So these are some examples that you find as classical treatises. Like Art of War was a treatment where the findings of all the war has been summarized, starting from before Christ to AD, right? So subjects could be varied: war, mathematics, statecraft, architecture, astronomy. So treatise, please remember, pulling out the findings of an article or articles and then giving your perspective to that contribution of originality there. The next logical thing is monograph. This is still highest specialized work. In monograph, what you do is, there are no two authors. In monograph, it is a single author. In treatise also generally single author only, but there is a scope, you can always associate it with some others and get help others. And if you want, you can include them as the co-author. But in monograph, there is no chance that you can include any author except you. In monograph, it is both the area, subject area is pointed, the author is single. In review article, there will be authors, number of authors. In treatise, limited authors. In monograph, it will be a single author, and the work will be depth-wise. See, in review article, breadth-wise it is more. In treatise, the findings are highlighted, findings are perspected. But in monograph, the depth becomes extremely important. See, that is how the subject matter differs, and that is how the deliverance of documentation also differ in research work. So monograph is a specialist work in writing, in contrast to reference works or exhibition on a single subject or an aspect of a subject, a small pulled out strand of a subject, often by single author or even an artist, and usually on a scholarly subject. So this is monographs are more of matured activity. Once you yourself have published some 50 articles, you have a grip on that particular area, then you can put your efforts on writing a monograph. A book or a long article, especially a scholarly one on a single subject or a limited aspect of it. Why limited aspect? Because you have to go very deep in it, so that you will give the complete entire the picture in entirety. So that is what is the specialty of monographs. A good monograph will have ordinary headings like an article, title, abstract, introduction, methodology section, literature review, results section, discussion section, and conclusion, which is not at all any different from the final research article sub ingredients. It's not very different. It is almost same, but specialty is highly specialized topic, singular, an aspect of a subject, a speck of a subject, and giving the treatment for that. So in difficulty wise, review article writing is easier. Moderately difficult is the treatise. Most difficult is monograph. Just some examples how a review article, how a monograph looks like. Heading is itself is a kind of generalistic here, but you will be very specifically talking on a topic in more depth. Coverage will be more depth. Say for example, contemporary Mexico is the monograph. It's an individual study on contemporary Mexico that is relevant as of now, that is existing, explaining the aspects, social, cultural, economic changes that occur during 40 years that comprise period of 70 to 10. So that long period in 3 different dimensions, this particular author has read many articles and summarized. That is how the monograph comes. So if you can live or think of 40 years about a topic like culture, economics, and social aspects, then such a vast study is worth precipitating into a monograph article. So you can write a small book or a booklet, or even a big grantha. Monographs are always longish in nature. Number of pages will be more. Subject will be very pointed. Another example is economics of tobacco and tobacco control. You go on discussing. See, there are 2 aspects. In Kannada we say Rajaniti, Rajakarana. Rajakarana is politics. Rajaniti is political kind of what is called morals of politics, right? Actually, politics is a good term, right? But then it is the practitioners are so bad, so the subject itself is becoming adulterated. Otherwise, politics is a very good term, right? So tobacco and tobacco control means you start the continuous serious cause of death. Science has brought out that particular fact. It's a monograph that examines the economic aspects, why at all a bad thing should be grown, and that is what is called Rajakarana, because it gives you revenue. Because it gives you revenue in a faster pace, which is so much important for public good, for doing construction activities like roads, bridges, and other things. You need a lot of money. Tax itself is not enough for the government. So some things, Raja politics aspect of it will be there. And at the same time, there will be temperance board. You should not drink, you should not smoke. All those things will be there. So you give a chance, and because if you want to do a greatest thing, some cost compromise is needed, and that kind of thing treatise, how much of politics, how much of political morale is embedded in topics like economics of tobacco and tobacco control. All the plants or agriculture will not give you money, whereas the economic products like coconut, which gives, or for example nicotine, for example sugarcane, they may not be very much needed as food items, but they have economic value, like sandalwood, right? Like, you can go on and on arguing that it is needed, but it has got to be also under a particular so a constraint, restraint, plus also the advantages. So pros and cons weighing is possible in such topics. So tobacco economics, that can be a good monograph. So you will be covering the economics aspect of it, starting from the plants, how it should be cultured, what is the cost benefit ratio, how the health and disease and management and revenue, all those things you can discuss, because economics is about that, making I should say money, at the same time making a meaningful money, and at the same time addressing the perils that is coming out of this economics also covers in that part. So monograph could be like a controversial subject, and you will be either taking a side and arguing, or it could be a historical perspective, how one particular thing changed over a period of time, and takes and write this one and then one. So writing monograph is more a matured practice. Very big researchers who have a lot of time and who have a lot of passion end up in writing monographs. The number of monographs are very, very small, lesser than your treatises, and very less compared, whereas the review articles are maximal. So as you go from review article to your monographs, the number decreases, the treatise, the treatment of subjects becomes varied, and they become very specific as well. That is a small discussion on research deliverance. Why I introduce this is because these are the three products that you will get as a spin-off benefit by doing reviewing of literature. So I thought I should include all three, so that there will be a range and there will be a balanced account of what is research deliverance at the end of a intense activity. Reviewing literature is a prolonged, intense activity. It takes a lot of time, lot of effort, lot of criticality, and lot of effort. Lot of effort. So it is good that you capitalize that particular hard work, and people do that. After having heard about the process technique of research of reviewing of literature and hit a gap, now you have converted that gap into a research question. Now is the time for you to operationalize. Hitherto it was a plan. It was a plan on the paper. It was a strategy effort on the paper, right? Although you have produced a paper, it is on the paper, right? Now that plan has got to be put into practice, right? And get experience in the process. You have planned, you are putting into practice, and the practice gives you what is called two things. One, the experience as a very, very distilled benefit, and also a kind of what is called documentation in the sense. So there is a necessity of how to operationalize, how to put all these ideas into practice, right? How to go about into why practice is needed? Because research is reproducible, research is demonstrable, research is repeatable. These three inherent qualities of research is there. You will have to get your own first-hand experience by conducting experiments. And by conducting experiments, I mean by choosing a particular plan. Like want to build a house, you have to have a plan, right? So research design is a plan. It gives you the structure. Structure means always the strength. Please remember, any structure has integral parts. If you say house is a structure, there has got to be a foundation, there has got to be a superstructure, there has got to be a kind of necessary information, necessary facilities. If it is a residential house, you will have to have a hall, you will have to have a kitchen, you will have to have a toilet, you will have to have some spaces. You know, these are all very important things. There are requirements for certain. So they are all structural in nature. So each structure is, although it is a house of a standing on a common platform or a foundation, the functionality will be different. Functionality of each part will be different. A hall in a house doesn't function as a kitchen, right? So functionalities will differ, although it is a residential house where everybody lives. So research designs, the research remains as a house, but the functionality or the variety of designs also exists. So there will be many designs, many things starting from, depending on your purse, depending on the time available, depending on your objective, depending on how much you should stay with that particular problem. All are the limiting factors. So you have many designs to suit anybody who want to be a researcher. So research designs are extremely important. Design is giving a frame to a photograph. Photograph itself is beautiful, but then if you frame it, you can keep it forever, keep it for a longer time, see it repeatedly, appreciate it. So research designs are those which gives you the experience of that feel of a framed photograph. Photograph itself you can see. You see, if you want to, you may be having your photographs about 50 to 60, your own photographs, but you pick and choose. If the task is frame it up, then you will not frame all the 60, right? You will select whichever that you feel giving some rational defense, and you will keep it forever. You will frame it forever. Like some documents are kept as paper, some documents are laminated. Why should be laminated? Because you will understand that lamination prolongs the life, and because it should be repeatedly seen, preserved, right? Research designs are like that. Research designs serve as a frame, serve as a strategy, serve as a plan, serve as a instrument for operationalizing the problem statement that you have written on the paper, right? So research design introduction is that. So we will talk about research designs. I think I should end up by that. Then material methods I will be talking about in the next session. There are plenty of designs, but there is absolutely no time for me, or there is also, it is not much needed. I have picked and chosen very, very common and major, and many people who have embraced type of designs, and they are generally these, four, that is case control, cross-sectional, longitudinal, and cohort. These are very common designs. Now, the submission here is that you have to know all these research designs. You should have an idea, and you can always have a kind of what is called filter and embrace, because everything has plus, everything has some disadvantage as well. So you will have to weigh either one, two, or all the four types of research designs, or all so many other designs also as well, for operationalizing your idea. More than one will always better. More than one approach always gives a richer experience, thicker experience, and more meaningful experience. And research PhD is always both the breadth and the depth. So people would appreciate if you have used more than one design in your research work. Now let us understand what is these research designs. What are the features? Each one is a samudra, but let me just give you highlights of these four types, which are very, very common. This covers both scientific as well as social kind of research. Case control, cross-sectional, longitudinal, cohort. So after the end of this lecture, you should be able to, tell which kind of design you would like to, embrace after doing, fixing up your problem statement, you should be able to tell, I followed cross-sectional design of experiment in my study. You talk that language, anybody would get appreciate, anybody will help, anybody will feel that you have really have understood the research methodology. So you will have to pick and choose. And sometimes it could be cross-cutting, it can be case control sum to prove one objective, it could be longitudinal sum to prove another objective, it could be cross-sectional, so it can be mixed. But then the sutras or the features are very simple, very defining, they are not difficult to understand. Let us see what are those basic research designs that is practiced in research work. But before that, you have caveats. You should prepare yourself with common things for all the research designs. In any design, there are 4 key characteristics. All the designs, we should have this. So we should be knowing about it. Now, what is that? You should be neutral. Don't ever pick a side. There is no, that means you are a judge. So when you sample and when you engage in sampling procedure or a sample selection procedure, because they will become the ingredients of work, they will take up your treatment dependent and independent variable. Is it not? Independent variable is in your hand. So independent variable is the thing that you manipulate, right? So when you do that particular manipulation deliberately, you should be able to kind of very obviously defend that you are free from bias. There is no special kind of treatment or anything, but you deliberately you had to manipulate so that your finding also can be observed and there should be measurable, or it should be under measurement limits. So the result should be free from bias. Bias is a very bad thing. It is like conflict of interest, right? Conflict of interest. You can always say, I am a teacher, my son also is studying in my college, but then I cannot go to exam section because my son is also studying and I can't go. That is a bias. Even though I am very strict, people know that I am strict, that bias. You have to prove that the bias is not there. You will have to decipher if that bias is not there. That is where the sample and sampling becomes critical, free from bias, because what you get is being tested by others as well. Your experience have got to be other. So you have to always embrace neutral standard. Discuss and get evaluated your conclusion after selection of sample following all scientific procedures, that the sample is free from bias. You did not have any bias, and you will have to document, prove, demonstrate that you did not have any bias. So that is the neutrality factor, key characteristic of the research design. All these 4 are free from these these 4 characteristics. Second one is reliability. Reliability is do many times, get the same result. Purposely you repeat, you get the same result, right? That means you put up a frame or a process steps, and it is an algorithm, goes sequentially, follow sequence, you get the same result. Research design, that is what is reliability. Reliability is repeatability. Repeating things at many point in time, you will get the same results every time. So that is also should be there. All these 4 designs that I'm going to explain will give you reliability, and it should be valid. Valid is actually the design which gives the estimate of or near truthness. That means free from error. You have confirmed that there are absolutely no errors. Even if there is an error, you will be able to defend, you will be able to tell why the error has crept in. That cognition you will come to know. That is what is called validity. Validity need not be 100%. Even your research is valid up to 80%, it could be good, because 100% is impossible in certain areas, but 80% is good. Sometimes in some areas, even 5% of validity is good, but you should be able to tell that it is 5% valid, right? So validity, reliability, these frames are the research designs should be always be associated. And finally, generalization possibility. By all these 4 methods that I'm going to explain to you, you can extrapolate the results because they are structured, they are built in a manner of what is happening to your cohort, your sample treatment in this particular time, at this point in time, at this point in location. It is possible to expand it to a bigger scope, In other words, it is a small sample test, but it can be escalated, it can be scaled, That scalability is called generalization. Very important ingredient and also a key characteristic of research designs. So scalability, validity, reliability, as well as neutrality should be the preconditions and inherent characteristics of all the research designs. And the designs that I have explained, I have nominated, I have just announced, is entirely within these parameters of characteristics. Now, principles are many. There are 9 to 10 principles, and let us talk about principles before actually talking about the features of these 4 research designs. Flexibility is always a strength, please remember. Now, flexibility gives what is called, you see, there are certain areas where you need iron in a structure, which gives you a reinforcement. But there are certain areas where things have got to be flexible. Flexibility as well as the hard. So iron can be bent, iron can be hard, right? So both flexibility as well as the reinforcement is the desired property of a structure, and research design is always a structure. It's always a framework. So design should be flexible in the sense, flexibility as a measure of strength. So flexibility is one, it should be flexible. A researcher may need to improve the design while conducting research, because the researcher may face the problem in the real field, and there could be a little departure, and the departure of that frame should be documented and defended. Otherwise, you should follow the structure. If it is for a cause, if it is for some kind of exception, okay, fair enough. Otherwise, it is a general rule. Follow the rule. So, principle of flexibility. All these designs, what we are going to learn, will have this flexibility. You will get yourself, yes, they are flexible. Principle of timeliness. You should be able to cover, because it is time bound. You see, research of one particular project has a time limit. You will have to finish within that. So, research design should specify the time so that every activity can be completed on time. This is also called technically Gantt charts, time activity charts. What activity, how much time should be taken. So any plan will work that way only. Both the time frame as well as the cost frame, right? So you will have to be able to, and your research design should be guiding to put the timeliness. Principle of replication, I told you, repeating somebody else can be followed, provided you give a specific, implicit, non-mistakable steps, right? That is very important. Designs have got to be replicated. Designs should be objective in nature, very less of subjective thing. Although person who does the experiment is a subjective fellow, he should keep that there are many people like you know, who will be doing and getting the same experience. So finding should be objective, but the person who is conducting is subjective fellow. Some kind of cross-cutting will be there, emotional factor may be there, but then that should not be a visible or an impediment in research. So objectivity is also important, and design should provide the objectivity. Generalizability, I told you that scalability, or what happens here for your sample will happen for a more number of sample elsewhere. The effect will be same, you know, that generalizability. Reliability, that is consistency. Validity, that is actually the measurability kind of thing. Valid. Yeah. Now let me just come to actual the design principle, I should say, for an effective research, that is the design, be it social or experimental or scientific, there is a principle called maximization of systemic error, minimization of an error of the, I should say, maximization of systemic, minimization of the error variance. I will tell you about that. Then there must be a control variance, control that is cognition, and also the participation of the extraneous or confounding variable. So we are tying now, we are coming to specific things called variables. Please remember, again reiterating the variables. Independent variable is the one which is in your hand. What you are observing is dependent variable, and what you have to control is confounding and extraneous variables. And we have talked about this over and again, time and again. And this max min con principle is deliberately what is in your hand, you will do it in a measurable, perceptible way. In other words, suppose you are the water, amount of water and growth you are testing, growth is dependent on the amount of water, growth of a plant. You will deliberately from one plant to other plant increase the supply of water to such an extent, appreciable extent, so that you would like to get an appreciable change. That is the intention, because it is in your hands. So systemic variance is maximized because it is in your hands. You can't put 1 ml and in one plant and 0.1 ml in the other plant, but you can put 10 ml in one and also 100 ml, 10 times more. So 10 ml, 100 ml, where there is margin of error, margin of difference is much, you can expect a different type or a pattern of effect on the growth, right? So deliberately the independent variable is manipulated. In fact, that has got to be manipulated. So as much difference that is present, you can always take. Once you get the difference, then you can go little in a subtle manner. Then you can tell in which particular bracket of supply of water maximal growth can happen. You know? But then you will have to fix that range, first and the last point. So in the beginning, you have to manipulate in a larger extent. That is called maximizing the systemic error. Minimizing the error variance means error is possible. You know, error is unforeseen but cognizable. Error is, now we have to put water, but water should not be saltish, water should not be hard, water should, so that you can take care, no? That you can take care because it is in your hand. So same water and the say you will present, and for one plant hard water, for the other plant the soft water, no, right? The quality of water is maintained. So that there should be no error in supplying of these variables, right? So that is called minimizing the variable. Sometimes you can measure the variable. So if you are very careless, instead of 50 ml, you will have 55 ml, right? You know, that is in your personal error. Sometimes the measuring jar is not calibrated, so instrumental error. So these are all what is called variance errors. Variance errors, you should take into cognizance, see that same jar is used, same water is used, and only the amount is deliberately changed. Like minimizing the error variance is that no personal errors, no instrumental errors, no incidental errors, no contextual errors. You know, all those things are errors which you can cognize, which you can make it uniform and deliberately have the same treatment, so that the change what you get or what you expect to get is perceivable, is feelable, you can experience it. Now control variance is, naturally you should be very guarded of the extraneous variables, you know, confounding variables which are very characteristic of nuisance value and also have a direct bearing sometimes on the growth factor or the dependent variable. So you should be guarded. So you have to control it to the lowest possible effect on the dependent variable. So independent variable, deliberately make it more. Dependent variable, be cautious, have minimum possible errors at many levels, and control the rakshasas or intervening things in the middle, who will spoil your dependent, this one, that is extraneous and confounding it. This principle is called max min con principle. Maximize the systemic error, deliberately increase the dependent variable. That's what is maximizing systemic variance. Minimize the error variance, personal, instrumental, contextual, incidental, all those things. Control the confounding, cognize extreme possible things. Reviewing of literature will tell you which are the people, which are those factors that will alter, that will give a wrong effect on the depending variable. So be be cautious about that and see their contribution is as much minimum or nil as possible. So this is called max min con principles. When you operationalize, you will have to take these precautions. Same thing I have explained here: widening the range, manipulating incident, the independent variable in a perceivable manner, expecting a greater change of treatment, so that you will understand because of this particular treatment the effect is perceived. Sources of error, how to minimize, I told you: instrumental, response error, contextual errors. Instrumental errors are also very, very important. You see, if you use one single thermometer, same thermometer you have to use. Don't change the thermometers as and when it is available. Don't change the vessels as and when it is available, because that subtle changes in uncalibrated things can give their own, wrong values. So we will have to take care of that. Now we talk a bit at the end about these 4 types of research designs. Let us talk about case control, study design. Any observational study with 2 existing groups differing in outcomes of the study are compared. In other words, this is a study design where there will be 2 groups. One is case, which you are going to test, which you are going to, in other words, if you say an animal, it is a rat, is a case. Referent is also a rat, but you are not treating with the independent variable for the referent. In the referent variable, you keep the same rat, breed, the time, day, the weight, everything same, but you are not giving the active ingredient which affects. So that becomes a baseline. To that you compare what the treated animal. So 2 groups you will do. For one group you treat, you give, you manipulate. For the other group you keep it the same species or same trend, but you don't treat them. The keeping non-treating thing will be we will have no outcome because you are not touching it, accepting only the sample. Sample is same, but you are not treating it. So subjects having the condition, for example, a disease condition. If I say a case, let us talk about, take an example and talk the example. Now example is in a particular factory setting. I want to study, the objective is what is the effect of fumes on the lungs, let us say. Fumes on the lungs. So the fumes have to have some offending agents. That's what is my independent variable. So the hypothesis is the welding operator who is exposed to fumes will have some altered physiological, morphological or disease conditions than a welder who is not exposed to fumes. So for that, I take the same age, sex matched control population, divide into 2 groups. One I will expose to fumes, the other one I will not expose to fumes, because the fume effect only I want to study on the lungs, is it not? So I have a comparison. They are comparable group, but the active ingredient or the exposure content will not be there for controls. Now, how many numbers should be there? Same numbers as case. If you take 10 welders who should be exposed to fumes, and there will be 10 welders who will also do the job, but they will be free from fumes. In other words, you will give some protective equipments. They are not exposed to fume at all, but they are engaging in that work. They are also comparable. They have the same age. They have the same experience. The welding is also same. All that are everything is same, but offending agent is not, or the independent variable, they are not exposed, right? So this is what is case control. In case control, the other group, base group, you should be more worried. See that they are not exposed to offending things, so that the effect that you get, possible effect, or the possible test that you do to change, to understand the effect, you will do the same thing. Now, what is the effect? Pulmonary function test. Pulmonary function test is nothing but vital capacity, or a small common test for both the case and control group. That means how much the vital capacity is affected, you will come to know because of the exposure of welding group, right? So this is a classical example. You can make, you will have to select the number same. You have to match the controls, and you will have to only exclude the exposure, so that the effect of exposure you will be understanding, and the effect of exposure you will be measuring. So with an outcome, without an outcome. So extremely important for experimental studies, extremely important for even social work. If you want to study the IQ of a village person, village adolescent, to an IQ of a state, of an urban area. So there are two groups, right? So village boys and girls, urban boys and girls, test is IQ, but the exposure is totally different, right? So the difference you will understand. The important thing is number of samples, and be guarded about the exposure condition. Be guarded about exposure conditions. So that is what is case control or case referent study. Investigating whether exposure is associated with an outcome. So association is, an association between the risk factor and the development of a disease. A risk factor is that lungs get deteriorated, lung capacity becomes less. Development of that means when the lung capacity becomes less, when the lungs are polluted, development of what is called pneumoconiosis, that is the capacity, the overall vital capacity of the lung itself gets reduced, and that is a disease. We call it as pneumoconiosis. That is the disease condition that gets precipitated in people who get exposed to certain kind of risks during the work, right? So if you want to study, case control studies are the best. So in case control study, most important is who is case, who is control, who is the person who is being administered with independent variable, who is the person who is not exposed to that independent variable and becomes a base or a reference group. So both are very, very important. The best design for epidemiological studies, especially health-based studies, where you would like to find the root cause. All epidemiological studies are oriented towards prevention rather than cure, right? See, for example, if you want to do the pandemic investigation, the best approach is epidemiological. That means the case has occurred already. You can't do people who are already suffering, but you can always prevent people getting into that mode. That is what is called epidemiological. For that, you will have to go to the root cause. You will have to go to the source. So if you want to understand the vector or the real root cause for that particular precipitation of the disease, or epidemiological approach, case control studies are the design. They are the best design. So all those things, but it is also extrapolatable to even social research. You can always do that depending on what your topic is about. Case control study design. So nature of case control, retrospective, already occurred thing. Outcome is already known. You know that disease is going to develop or precipitate, and it compares the prevalence of suspected cause factors between individuals and without it. So you know for sure that this particular exposure gives a disease, and it is always a examination of what has occurred, what is past, this is another Lakshana of case control study. So understanding of the disease only paves way for you to prevent the disease. And this whole understanding of the present condition to prevent the condition is called epidemiological approach. And many medical studies are based on this case control design. Three distinct features of case control design. Outcome has occurred before the study. So health problem has already developed. Studying the effect and cause prospectively. Uses of control group for reference or comparison. These are the three features of case control study. Now, selection of cases, a small discussion. How do you selection? Very, very crucially, selection of cases. Identify the cases, identify the controls, mostly derived from same population. Population should be homogeneous. The groups will be totally different so that you will treat them differently. And number also will be equal. Number also should be same. So in the case selection, you will have the diagnostic criteria. Example, what cancer stage. Eligibility criteria, that is whether it is existing or old, new cases than the old. So eligibility criteria you will put, diagnostic criteria you will put, and then go for sampling and selection of sample. If a large population you want to select, one case and one control should be there. That means for 50 cancer patients, 50 sample control patients should be there who doesn't have cancer, right? You know, that kind of a formula. If a small population is selected, that is, we call generally, it's a convention, it is not very strict. We call anything you select less than 50 is small, anything more than 50 is large. So for such things, one case, more controls, more references is always better. It is always better. But researchers do the opposite way because to cut the cost. But that validity is good, not good. To cut the cost, they will have same number, even for small sample. No, it is not allowed. For large samples, it can nullify, but not small samples, less than 50. It has got to be same number. Then matching is extremely important because they have to be derived from same population. Extremely important. Only exposure difference will be there, but matching will be same. So frequency of matching also, you know, age, gender, experience, race, the color, all those things are matched so that, you know, they should not play their role, subtle roles as confounding and, you know, there will be always a within a group, small subtle differences because he is not the same person. For example, you know, the vulnerability of sensitivity of the disease, you know, but that will, by and large, if you notice, you will have to eliminate and put an alternate there. So balancing is extremely important to have a comparison, realistic comparison. So it becomes extremely important that the selection criteria, only thing is that if a cancer person is there, the population should be same for the control, but he should not have the cancer for the reference. For the reference, no disease condition. For the case, the condition should be there. That if you maintain, then your case control study becomes strong. So measurement of exposure, information about exposure, you should get it. That is about the offending agent. So that you can get it by yourself experience, by doing interviews, questionnaires, hospital records, you know, why that person got that disease, you know, that kind of an idea. Bias should be minimized or eliminated. Analysis and interpretation, you know, case control studies, you see, especially what is called odds ratio. You know, what is odds ratio? Odds ratio is odds of exposure in those with the disease, odds of exposure without the disease, right? Odds ratio we have to consider because that is reflecting the risk of the disease. Everybody is having the risk of cancer, but some get the cancer, some don't get the cancer, right? So what is that makes the small group vulnerability? That's what we are going to study, right? So odds ratio becomes important. So analysis and interpretation, when you do, you will have to consider those factors. Advantages of case control: easy design, lesser cost, rapidity, because it is retrospective, already precipitated, you're finding it a reason for it with an intention of controlling, right? Useful for rare or less known diseases, no risk to the subjects because they are already suffering that condition, no prognosis because they are suffering now, only treatment is possible and following, there is no need. Once the treatment is done, they can go home, they are disease free. So there is no prognosis condition requirement and minimal ethical problems because people will be available readily for investigation. You will have to approach, you will have to go to hospitals and select the sample. Or you will have to go to a society where the disease is there, right? So disadvantages, there is a inherent bias problem within the group. Accuracy may not be certain, not very, very certain sometimes because of the variances contributing more. So you have to be very guarded about the variance. Difficulty to select suitable controls. Most difficult is suitable controls because age, even if it is balanced, there are certain special conditions which, you know, they will not be eliciting, it will not be known, even with some kind of pervasive tests, it will not be known, but playing a major factor. So that kind of spoilers will be there. It is difficult to select the control sample, very easy to select the case samples. That is the reason why you should increase the number of control samples. That is the reason why we say for every one case you have about 5-6 control cases, then that problem gets nullified. Representativeness, because when we do average, that problem gets diluted. Representativeness of the case controls not fully ensured whether they are represent, because the welder you are selecting, but welder when he comes home, the home people also, if you want to select as a control, they also are indirectly exposed. For example, if a smoker is there in the house, you should never select, even though the counterparts or the house members are non-smokers, right? Smoking you are investigating, the control should be very, very free from smoking. So you will have to hunt the people who are not at all smokers, which is a tough task, right? Which is a difficult task because passive smoking is there. Smoke, you are inhaling, no, you are not controlling it. So the smoker will definitely get exposed, but he will give that smoke to others also, right? So actually there is no pure control at all there, right? So such possibilities are there, you have to be guarded. Then cross-sectional design entails the collection of data on more than one occasion you should be able to do. So in fact, it is a prolonged, repeated number of samples, though the test is same. Now, at a single point in time, you will do it. At the point of investigation, you will do it. And both quantifiable as well as the actual metrics or measurable figures and facts, you get it. Quantitative data, you get it. In connection with two more variables, not necessarily one variable, 2 or 3 variables you can select, that there is a flexibility and possibility, which are then examined to detect the patterns of association. How this smoking, is there a pattern? You can go. That means even a semi-psychological aspects, why the person has entered into that kind of condition. Is there any other angle? Also, you can take it, consider it, and also investigate it. So, by case control study gives a scope of co-founding so many findings. That is, you have not put it as an objective, but there are possibilities that you can get some new findings, which are co-findings, that is, which are associated findings, but your intent is not to investigate them. So there is an advantage. There is also a kind of bonus that you get besides your objective. So cross-sectional studies are such studies, where unlike case control, you have at one point in time, you will have the cross section. That is, at one point in time, adolescents, both boys and girls, at one point in time, you can. So in case control, it is single variable. In cross sectional, many variables. but the sample will be a sample of each group. So case control, cross sectional are close, but one is retrospective, the other one is at a point. So we also call cross sectional studies as point prevalence studies at that point in time. So at one point in time, many cases can be investigated, many variables can be observed. In other words, more comprehensive thing in one particular instance, many cases, many cases is nothing but cross section of cases. Observations could be also many. So variables could be more, cross section can be more, and the you will get actually what is that condition at that point in time, at that point of investigation. So cross sectional studies are a little advantageous because variables can be more. In other words, more comprehensibility can be built in this plan of study. But important thing is at one point in time, you do. At that particular point in time, what are your observations of many cross sections? So at one point in time, if you want to include all the 4 races like Hispanic, Negroid, Mongoloid, and the Caucasian, 4 races of human races, at one point in time, you can cover on an observation of the melanin content or the skin color content of all the 4, or an eye color of all the 4. You can include many variables at one point in time and come to a comprehensive conclusion. Many types of cases, many populations at one point in time you are able to investigate. So large studies, worldwide studies, big studies are under the ambit of cross-sectional design, whereas case control design could be localized, but cross-sectional design can be not localized but highly proliferative, or large populations, large sections of population you can cover. Suppose you want to cover in a single factory, each department becomes a section. In a foundry, there will be people who are exposed to that particular area in furnace. So furnace operators are there. At the same time, you can have a control group in the administration. Administration people never go to that particular fireplace at all. Whereas the furnace operators will be always in the place of fire. Although you get the same selection of sample becomes easy, you can do both cross-sectional as well as case control studies in such a scenario, right? The cross-sectional is 2 groups, same identities, and you will have many observations, variables will be many. Whereas in case control, small group, you will have a referent, you will have a disease. For furnace operators, the controls are administrative people. For if you want to study the smoking habit of these 2 groups, one is a case thinking that control people will not be smokers because they are not stressed in furnace. So what is the prevalence of that smoke in the control group? If you want to study, take the same cohort, same group in the same factory, but in different section, not completely, the work nature is different. It can be a good case control study. It can be good cross-sectional study also, depending on who develop a particular, both, if you include the lung functions of the administrative workers and lung function of the furnace operators, then the nature has become cross-sectional there. So section is different, administrative section is different, the furnace section is different, and you sample in each of them and then study the lung function. That the nature has become cross-sectional. So cross-sectional can be in a small measure, in a very large measure, large number of variables. So it is an improvement over case controls. In case control, diseases are studied. In cross-sectional, pattern of the diseases are studied. So features of a cross-sectional study takes place at a single point in time. At that point in time, does not involve manipulating of variables. There is no need of manipulation of variables because it is the observational thing. Considers several characters at one particular point in time. So observations are multi. Many variables will be incorporated. Analyzes the prevailing characteristic of a given population. What is existing at that point in time? What was the melanin concentration of each one of these people across the people? Melanin is nothing but the color content or the responsible chemical for the skin color, right? How these races, have the differential distribution of this melanin pigment, right? So that, or any other variable, or include melanin, include weight, include vision, include nose length, include variables could be plenty across the cross section. So cross sectional studies are huge because variables could be plenty. Whereas in case control study, the variables will be limited. Groups are extremely distinct there. So these are the nature of cross sectional and case control variances. So advantages, some is that it is an efficient way to identify possible group differences, trends. Disadvantage is that you cannot rule out some certain small variabilities among the color that you have selected. For example, you have selected a Negro population. In the Negro population itself, you can differentiate light, dark, medium, brown, is it not? Although we consider them as, so that differences you will have to, have a caution. You will have to have, if you want same ethnic group, same place, same race, if you can select, so that, but it cannot be prevented. Disadvantage is there, advantages are plenty. So case control studies are huge studies about a single point in time, but many types of people are covered for a particular, or many observations are also incorporated. The third point is longitudinal. It is an extension of cross-sectional, but observed at different point in time. In case control at one point in time, in longitude, it is different point in time, but the group is same. So in other words, you are following up that particular cohort, that particular group for a longer period. Very ideal if you want to tell how the developmental changes occur over a period of time. How the brain grows from pediatric, adolescent, adult, and geriatric groups. So you can follow this study for about 100 or 70 years and come out with some solid conclusion that how the brain cells develop, when it will develop, how it will be optimal, how it will start deteriorating, how it will die, right? That is what is the greatness of this longitudinal. It is expensive, it is time consuming, but the information that you get is comprehensive over a particular large amount of time, repeated things. And longitudinal studies have their own values, although it is tough to consider. There are certain disadvantages because the group that you have selected, number can become because the number can become less and less over a period of time, or they get shifted to some other place, or they die, or they disappear. The operational problems are there, but by and large, if you select enough number of people and seek cooperation for a longer time, longitudinal studies or design is also important. In social research, longitudinal things, how the factors affected over a period of study to acquire the knowledge of mathematics among the people of school going, higher education, and some other thing. If you want to study such kind of thing, longitudinal studies are the best. Longitudinal, it takes little longer time. You can always get very useful information. For social research, it is longitudinal and cohort. For medical, it is case control and the cross-sectional. So longitudinal design gathers data on a factor, in other words, a confidence in technical term, over a period of time, over many years, The advantage is that you can see the time effect on the course of development, that is evolutionary changes, subtle changes, natural changes that are obvious, and put up your arguments. What the confidence increasing at a faster rate in 30 than 40. That means people at 30 has fast reflexes, people at 40 have lesser reflexes, and people at 50 it will be still getting lesser reflexes. That means effect of age on the reflexes. If you want to understand, it is the design should be longitudinal. But the disadvantage is that it is costly because you have to do it for a longer time and it is subject to bias. So any institutional studies, any big corporational studies in social research, longitudinal design would be the ideal thing. In a small measure, even for 1 or 2 years, if these changes are sudden, longitudinal studies can be taken up, because there are certain events which have a surge. For example, if you want to understand the hormonal effect during the puberty, because puberty itself will stay for less time, from 12 years, possibly it will set on 10 and completely at the age of 16. That within that 16 years, you will get that surge. So in that 6 years, you can do all the studies and understand what are the effects, what are the developmental, intellectual, anatomical, all that studies you can study, right? So in a smaller measure also longitudinal are possible, even lesser study time also is possible, but the principle is it is based on the repeated or the following up of investigations of the same group with the same parameters. That is longitudinal study. So there is some kind of relationship. If you do at one point in time vertically, then it is cross-sectional because the population is different. If you do across over a period of time, it is cross-sectional plus time dependent. So longitudinal is little advanced than cross-sectional, because in longitudinal, many cross-sectional is 1 point observation. Longitudinal is over a period of observations, repeated observations. So value of your findings depends on the design that you have taken. Last one is cohort. Cohort is fix a group, follow them. In longitudinal, we don't fix, we fix the sample. But here we fix a particular group and follow that particular group. If you want to study the effect of one particular group over a period of time, this cohort is fixing the sample or fixing the number of fixing a group of sample, a group of individuals, and following them, treating them, and understanding them. Suppose you want to understand how the vocabulary increases over a period of time, and that is the best. So in standard 1, what will be the number of the range of words that he understands, and at the age of 5, what the number of words he understands. If you want to put, you follow them, follow that particular group, select about 10 or 15 students who are in first standard and follow the same group up to 5 years or 4 years or even 2 years, then see the change, number of words acquisition or learned. So cohort is one group fixation following the same group, whereas in longitudinal, one population fixation and following that population over a period of time. Here also over a period of time, so it is an extension, but it is in sequence. It is in sequence. In longitudinal, sequence incremental is there, but it is not sequential. At any point in time, over a period of time, over 10 years, over 5 years. But as in cohort design, over a regular period of time, that is fixed, the time is fixed, the population is fixed, or the sample group is fixed, and you observe. So cohort is a little finer variation of longitudinal study, not very different. Advantage, very efficient and reduces biases of cross-sectional design. And disadvantage is you cannot rule out. Within the group, there could be some kind of variability. You cannot prevent it, because after all, we are dealing with dynamic human beings. So that is always there in all the population. That is a common disadvantage is any design, but you should be giving a weight or recognizing it. That is how the cohorts design will be there. So these are the small 4 types of studies in vogue. You can pick and choose any design. There are plenty of other designs as well. Our time limit, this one, it doesn't allow that. But nevertheless, we have understood as an overview how the different designs are available, what are those governing principles in the design, and what are the basic fundamental ingredients that cannot change across all the designs. That also we have learned. In the next session, we will talk about material method. It's a small chapter. You will understand this in a better manner because I will be giving some examples. What is the connotation of the material? What do we mean by material? And what do we mean by method? And how different materials can be explained and documented and used following different methods. We will talk about materials and methods in the next session. Yeah, research designs we have covered, types of deliverables we have covered, the research articles, treatises, monographs, and 4 types of research designs we have covered. If you have any doubt, you can always touch me, ask a lot of questions relating to the designs. We can always discuss one-to-one what type of design you will settle at the find, what type of design is recommended for your type of work. All those things, there is a possibility. You can always be in constant contact, not only with me, but any research, experienced research person would be able to help you. Please read augmented literature, Kothari book, and also so many other literatures are available. Now you know what to read. Headings are ready for you. Put the keywords and go on acquiring more and more related. What I have treated is the basics, fundamentals, but you can always augment it and get a better understanding, repeatedly reading, and also giving lot of time and mind to what you want to learn and what is needed for you to learn. I will stop at this today. We will meet again in the next session. In fact, I am coming almost, I think I have finished about 60 to 70% of the coursework. There will be some 4 or 5 sessions left, and we will go ahead with those sessions, and finally we will have some kind of, I wish to meet you also. So 1 or 2 sessions we will have offline if it is not inconvenient to you, but I would be very loving to meet all of you so that one-to-one interaction also is possible. 1 or 2 subjects we can, topics we can pick and choose and meet at one particular place and talk in offline mode also. So that is also a possibility. If that is very inconvenient for all of you, online mode will definitely be there. But then next 4 or 5 sessions, I will be completing my part of research methodology coursework. I wish you all good year end and also very happy year beginning 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Happy New Year, sir.
Very happy New Year, madam. Thank you.
Thank you and Happy New Year, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am sorry because we don't want you to hold on 31st. That is why we little preponed. We should not lose coverage. There should be continuity. And that is the reason why I requested Professor Banga to, do as early as possible so that you will celebrate year end and you will be free from kind of, you can have some good time. And even the first week of January also is a season. I want everybody to enjoy so that you get freshened up yourself and be, on your tips and toes in the next session when we meet. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Happy New Year.
Good
Thank
night,
you,
sir.
madam. Thank you.
Sir, sorry, sir, to disturb you. Sir,
Yes.
we have got your PPT up till problem statement.
Okay.
Now, from
Okay.
review,
Now I will
literature,
give
got
up
it.
to now. Now I will send another package where
Yes, sir.
I will include whatever till now we have covered, including research designs. Right, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll
Sir, and
I'll
one more
send
thing. One more thing, sir. Once we
Yes.
read the review of literature,
Yeah.
the how to make notes or a catalog. Yesterday we could miss. It was explained only through Scopus. Now
Okay.
I read from different articles. Maybe
Okay.
I may go to ResearchGate, I may go to Google Scholar or various place.
Okay.
A kind of a catalog, what should I note down and the notes to be taken? Any example can be given in the next
No,
class?
the first cut is only the abstract
Only
reviewing,
the
madam.
abstract. Okay,
The
sir.
abstract
Okay.
reviewing, use the Excel file, make that 4 columns and populate it.
So that 4 columns that should be mentioned. So is it mentioned in that review of literature?
Excuse me, ma'am, tell me again.
The 4 columns, sir, the 4 columns.
Yeah, when you read only the abstract, no?
Yes, sir. Yes,
You
sir.
have to make those 4 columns I told you. The 4 columns are, the first one is preliminary information, title, publisher, title, authors and affiliation, first column.
Yes, sir.
The second one is that the actual method that he has followed, including
Yes,
one
sir.
sentence about the topic. Method
Yes,
is
sir.
you are covering. The third one is the results that the person has got out of that following that method, and the fourth one has 2 parts. Fourth column has 2 parts. The first part is what is called conclusion, that is the outcome of that particular experiment he has done.
Yes,
And
sir.
the last component of the fourth factor is inference, how he generalized. What is that inference? Conclusion, inference, the last part.
Yes, sir.
Material and results is the third part. Material and method is the second part. Preliminary, title and affiliation of the author is the first part. If you can compile this by reading only the abstracts in the first cut, then there will be another short listing to read full articles, because you will get this preliminary exercise will filter out what you should read, what you should not read, because at that time itself the gaps keep on bothering you, and you will search many engines and gather all the information. See, the number of articles that you study for the first cut, that is abstract, will be more, whereas the next cut will be little small. You will select say 100, 200, 300, because the focus area is already defined. So you will put the focus area among the selected articles, and you will shortlist and then start reading full art. I told you how to shorten the keyword, is it not, madam? See, shortening keyword, you will
Yes, sir.
do
Yes,
it
sir.
second cut, in the second
Yes, sir.
cut,
Yes.
and do what is called entire study, entire article, and make notes on key points. Say, for example, 1 page possible notes for each article. Even if it is 50-page article, the summation only will be 1 page, because if it is 100 articles you have selected, 100 pages of notes is already done, which will become the material for you to write the review article, madam. That is how
Thank
you
you, sir.
go.
Thank you, sir.
That is how
Thank you,
you
sir.
go. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. If you want further information of modus operandi, please meet me, because it is difficult at one point in time to explain and demonstrate as well, right?
Yes,
So if anybody wanting to meet, most welcome. And
Yes, sir.
also please let us know when that offline class you would like to have. Maybe the last but one session, I will indicate, request Professor Banga to organize a one-to-one session, so that I want to meet each one of you, see all of your faces, understand, and also become more familiar, so that the association will not end with the course. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.